Citizens of football land, welcome back to the Badlands feed. It's Buck the Trend. I'm your host, Dan Essian. Coming to you with a quick episode. I wanted to go over some of what we learned from the combine, some of what we've been learning from getting prepared for the NFL draft. I want to just go through three scenarios for the Jets and what prospects to be considered in those three scenarios. I want to go through some trends about each round of the draft and the proverbial crapshoot take and why that's just a little off. I mean, we talked a little bit on the joint podcast, but I really want to talk about where people are finding talent and why just throw stuff out there, man. You look for good fits. So I think the first thing I want to talk about is trade up, stay put, and trade down. So if the Jets are to trade up, I do think that the players that could make that happen are, for me, just Cam Ward and Mason Graham. I think if they interview with Cam Ward and they really like what they see there and he leaves a good impression on them, I think that there's a good chance that that'll be the case. I think that they would probably consider pretty seriously trading up to make sure that they can lock him down. If that's the case, you're likely going to have to go pretty high up. I think if you are making it known, or if people get the wind that is your inclination, a lot of teams, particularly the top two, will start to lean in that direction publicly just to force your hand and get a good trade package. So I think you got to go up pretty high to get Cam Ward. In terms of Mason Graham, I don't think they'd have to go up too high, but I do think that there's a couple teams they need to get ahead of, particularly the Patriots and really just the Patriots. Or I think there's a few other teams that are getting enamored by Graham, but kind of the Patriots mainly there. You're going to have to really get ahead of them. But once you're ahead of them, you should be okay in terms of, making sure that you can secure somebody like Mason Graham. He has been mocked as high as number 2 in some drafts recently. So it's a pretty big difference to where things were when the process started. But at the same time, it's just you're figuring out that everybody knows what the safe picks are. And so, the more people start to realize, like, okay, this guy is a sure thing, the more likely they are to just take them early and not take a gamble. Like we talked about last time, and it's all about managing risk. So, yeah, I do think that they are going to have to have a few teams to make sure that they can actually secure him. But, yeah, I think you have to go pretty high to get ahead of the Patriots. Obviously, you have to go to 3. I think for Cam Ward, you're probably going to have to go all the way up to number 1. If you want it to be a sure thing, if you want to take a little risk, you go to number 2. But you got a chance to get a jump there by the Giants, depending on who they want. And so, yeah, I think what you're going to get in terms of accompanying let's just say accompaniment. Let's just leave it at that. Between Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, I think there's a stark difference there. So that's what makes this, a trade to number 2 pretty risky. Because if somebody does go ahead of you and takes Cam Ward, and you are not looking for everything that comes with Shedeur Sanders, you're kind of screwed at that point. So it does seem like a trade to number 1 would be the only way to secure somebody like Cam Ward. And so, yeah, I think those are your trade-up considerations. Now, in terms of staying put, you have Jelon Walker, of course, Georgia. We've talked about him a little bit. That's a real possibility there at 7. Shamar Stewart, I think that's starting to become a real possibility there at 7. Will Johnson, another real possibility there. I think just talking about those 3 at first, the 2 edges, Jelon Walker and Shamar Stewart. I think they have very different game styles. So I think with Jelon Walker, you're looking at somebody who's a little bit more of a hybrid, right? Trying to make that full time transition to edge, a little bit undersized, has that like, a little bit of a different build to him than what you typically would kind of expect out of the type of fronts that the Steve Wilkes and Aaron Glenn have had in the past. But at the same time, you got somebody who has a different type of motor, somebody who plays the game the way that they would want him to play it. So I think that that'd be a really serious consideration there, because I think that he's a very good culture fit and a really good characteristic fit with what they want to move towards. So uh, I think I would be a big fan of that there. Shamar Stewart's really interesting. I think um, again, there's been a ton of conversations about the production and all that. He just blew up the combine like many uh, thought he could, especially Will. But I think with Shamar Stewart, it's the best combination fit with what they have right now on the interior. I think if you consider, Jermaine Johnson coming back from injury and all that stuff, it'd be nice to have a good third option there behind him that but I think that really that hybrid nature of his game, right? His ability to play a few more positions, right, than somebody like Jelon Walker. You're not. I don't want to say you're replacing, JFM finally, but like you're getting someone who can be a little bit more versatile, a little bit more um, of a you know Swiss Army knife for your defense. And so I think with Shamar Stewart, just a little bit more. I don't want to say more intrigue, but I think that the usefulness of Shamar Stewart is a little bit more eye opening there, because it's less of a pigeonholed fit. It's less of a, hey, this is what you're going to do and just do it really well. It's more of, okay, we're going to figure out like where he best fits. And I think if you think about his ability to push the pocket, and then you think about having somebody like Will McDonald on the other side, and you consider like all the production issues and the missed big plays and all that stuff, I think that the talent around him can really clean up anything that he misses. And so you could see somebody who is an absolute nuisance just creating more production for everybody else. And that's beautiful. That's exactly what you want to see. And so, yeah, I think with that, you have, Jermaine Johnson with a similar skill set. There's no reason why they can't all be on the field at the same time, particularly with Shamar Stewart's size. There's absolutely no reason they can't all be on the same field at the same time. It's, I talked a lot about the three edge look last year, and I talked about potentially having Jermaine Johnson rush on the inside a little bit. I think with Shamar Stewart, you can have him more naturally rush on the inside and keep Jermaine with his power rush on the outside. And I think you'd be sitting pretty. I think that the blitz packages that Steve Wilkes will bring over will also help there. Just making the best out of the athletic ability of all those guys. And I think that if you look at Jelon Walker, a lot of what he did well at Georgia was his blitzing ability. So who knows, man? Who knows how they could find different ways to use those guys? But they both offer a little bit of a different package, a little bit of a different feel to what the Jets defense would be. And I do like the usefulness of Shamar Stewart potentially in that. And then we talked about Will Johnson, or mentioned Will Johnson. We didn't talk about it much, but not much to say there, man. Just one of the best quarters in the draft period. And, it'd be a very, very, very impressive option to have next to Sauce Gardner in that defense as they, likely move away from TJ Reed as he hits free agency. And so, yeah, I think those are some options for staying put. You got other options there, Tyler Warren. You got plenty of options there if they want to stay put. But I think that those three options, I think, would be probably my more likely selections if I were to guess. And then trading down, I think there's a lot of trade down options here. So, and for me, these are guys that I think are plus starting type quality players. Um, and so the three I wanted to mention, Nick Emanwari just destroyed the combine yesterday. Mentioned him on the pod yesterday as well. That's if you're looking to make your safety position serious again, I think that'd be a really great start. It's the type of player that you see succeed in a lot of defenses around the NFL. And I don't want to. You don't want to do the Derwin James comp much because he's an absolute freak. But again, this dude, I think Trevor Sickma called him Captain America post Super Soldier Serum. Like this is a special athlete, and he's got the game skills, man. Like he's got the football IQ, he's got that on top of it. So, hey, man, they're looking for guys who are going to play smart, violent, and fast, and that's what that dude does, man. So, if you're going to trade down, that I think he's in play there. And then you got guys like Kenneth Grant, of course, from Michigan. I've talked about him a lot. That's a really, really good combination with Quinnen Williams on the outside. That'd be absolutely electric. And then Ashton Jeanty, man. If you're going to trade down and Ashton Jeanty sticking around, then that's, look, there's a lot of questions to answer about what they want to do with that running back room. Look, they didn't get enough out of the running backs last season. A lot of that was the way that the offense was patterned. You have guys who are fairly talented. You got Braylon Allen. You got Breece Hall, of course, who is a star quality. But hey, if you're looking to do something a little different, man, if you're looking to maybe copy a little bit of what you did in Detroit, to an extent, Ashton Jeanty might be an option there. And further movement, might come off of that. But we'll see. We'll see how they navigate this offseason. But yeah, those are some options I'll consider if they do trade down. And then if you look towards the trends of the draft, so that's what I want to talk about before I get out of here. Rounds 2 to 3 are the classic rounds to find starting interior offensive line talent. I know the Jets are pretty good there right now, and so they don't really have to worry about this for the most part. But if you just look around the league, every interior offensive line first team All-Pro this past season was drafted in the second or third round. It's really impressive. And you remember that there's still a lot of good, high-quality starting talent in rounds 2 to 3 that you can find. You don't just give up after round 1, obviously. I think also in rounds 4 through 7, that's when the real scouts get to work, man. And that's you can still find really good scouting or starting quality there. I think for a lot of those players, you just make sure that you trust what your eyes are seeing, but it also depends on the talent of the draft. So you look at Bucky Irving's draft, that was a really good running back draft. He ends up going down a little bit further than he probably would in a different year. He ends up being a really high-quality starting running back in the 4th round, right? Same Tyrone Tracy, 5th round, right? You look at Evan Williams in 4th round on the defensive side of the ball. It's just like you're finding guys in rounds 4 through 7 who can give you what you need from a starter for an extended time potentially. Some of those guys end up being second contract guys. Some of those guys will just play out their first contract, and the team will either find better talent or they'll just find another clone of that type of player. But a good amount of those guys do end up getting second contracts, right? And so you got to stay locked in for the whole draft, man, because there's some sneaky guys you can find there, and this happens every year. And so you can see that in the all rookie team, all those selections: Bucky Irving, Tyrone Tracy, and all around the league. You got Dominic Pooning, 3rd round pick, Jonah Ellis, 3rd round pick. All those guys on the all rookie team, those are guys that teams are able to find in those middle late rounds, right? And I think you just hope that your Jets are going to be locked in with those day 2, day 3 picks. And hopefully the back end of the roster is, we kind of raise the floor a little bit and get some talent that the Jets are in desperate need of. I think that's the one thing that you could look back on as the Jets, look to move into the future a little bit here. I think a lot of what we heard from the previous regime about, you know, what they inherited and about how difficult it was to move out of that. I think a lot of that mindset is what you can't have anymore. Like we talked a lot about it with the players, and we talked a lot about it with the coaching staff, but it also came from the front office. A lot of those Joe Douglas pressers about, hey, we inherited this, like, Pee Wee football level talent from the previous regime. All that stuff, man, is BS, bro. You gotta do your job. So there's no more excuses like that anymore because teams are building fast, right? Because there is enough talent to go around, right? A lot of it is how you analyze and how you dissect a draft, right? And so if you know that a draft is super talented at one position, right? You can wait on that position a little bit, right? And especially if you know that you have some talent internally, you know that you can wait it out a little bit, right? Because hey, I can get someone who's going to be backing up my starter, who could easily, Wally Pip, or they could easily take that guy's spot in a few years, and I'm going to develop that. And those are smart ways to approach the draft, as opposed to kind of reaching for stuff or trading out of a bunch of picks and just taking random projects. Like all that stuff is a waste of time. Like you need to take a look at a draft, analyze it, take a look at what the talent of that draft is, right? Where it's heavy, where it's light. You figure out, like, great, if I'm going to completely whiff on this in free agency, or let's say that the talent in free agency isn't very good, which is the case this year, then you're like, great, I'm going to have to lean on the draft a little bit more. Like, what can I guarantee? Like, where can I guarantee I'm going to get what I want? Where can I not? How do I maneuver to get to what I want? Right? That's what it's all about. So let's hope that the Jets process is smooth, and then we'll see what the results are. But yeah, a little quick one this week. We've had plenty of us on the feed, so I don't want to take too much time. But appreciate y'all. Have a great weekend. Bye.